Welcome back to Close Up. In the first Trump administration, there was a definite feeling out period in which the president and his team got their sea legs. This time around, the goal for the Trump administration is to hit the ground running. That means working with Congress, but also working with the states. The relationship between Governor Chris Sununu and President Trump was unique. Kelly Ayotte will have to forge her own path ahead. Here to discuss that and more is political analyst Scott Spradling. Scott, Happy New Year.
Hi, Adam. Happy New Year to you.
So first, let's rewind. How was Governor Chris Sununu so successful in those early years at really navigating that Trump relationship, working with Trump, but not becoming of the Trump world in the eyes of voters who really dismissed a lot of people in 2018 who they thought got too close to him?
Yeah, I think what Chris Sununu was able to do successfully was sort of stay in his own skin, because he campaigned a long time ago, as we recall, as someone who was going to be an independent voice, reflective of all, going to speak my mind, and stay the course. And I think that's what he was able to do in that relationship. Mind you, it was a new relationship with the Trump administration. We weren't back then quite sure what we were going to get from a President Trump. We now have the years of experience to reflect back, but I also think that the relationships evolved quickly, honestly, because of COVID and the way the governor handled COVID, and through that built a new level of credibility and popularity that allowed him that kind of opportunity to call common sense balls and strikes in what was happening in Washington.
How do you think Kelly Ayotte is going to navigate that relationship? Obviously, she has more Washington experience than Sununu does or did, but obviously withdrawing the endorsement from Trump in 2016 during the campaign there, bygones are bygones, but Trump doesn't forget. So how does she navigate?
So I think, in a word, well, not to pump up expectations, but she has maintained relationships inside the Beltway that I think will be very valuable to her as she moves forward as governor. She will be able to work with the New Hampshire congressional delegation, but to your point, I think she'll work well with the Trump administration because, as you point out, while it was rocky in the beginning, she was the Sherpa for a Supreme Court nominee, and that worked for Donald Trump. That was a successful process, and I think they've been able to maintain at least professional connections through the years. So I anticipate she'll be able to navigate that well, and she knows where a lot of bodies are buried, having served as a U.S. Senator.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how she finds that person. Talking to Governor Chris Sununu, he says at a certain point, you could always get through to Mike Pence and make an argument and say, hey, we need to do X, Y, Z. Pence having all that experience. Not clear yet who that person will be in the Trump administration, but Ayotte has all those connections.
Absolutely, and it could be because of the combination of the Senate experience, if you will. Maybe she develops a relationship with the incoming vice president too.
Yeah, and one thing to point out that's very unique in the Sununu relationship, and this is such a unique aspect of it, is the John H. Sununu factor.
Yes.
Right. Remember, he got into that huge fight with Trump in the middle of that 2015 primary process, and then came back and endorsed him. And Governor Sununu wasn't on TV as much in 2017. You know who was? John H. Sununu.
That's right.
Every time he was on there, he was towing the line for the Trump administration. Trump came back in, I think, March of 2018 to talk about the opioid crisis, but he pointed out Sununu the elder in the crowd and said, hey, we fought so hard and now we're great friends. He says all these great things about me.
Yeah.
Ayotte does not have that guy in her corner who can butter up the president on TV the way Chris did.
Yeah, that's very true. And yet, at the same time, she could probably just sort of take the direct assault and go, reach out to the administration, reach out to the White House and say, all right, we're in this. Let's be friends and say a few nice things. And that does seem to work with Donald Trump.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
Pivot to the NHGOP chairman race.
Yes.
A big name in Mike Biondo bowed out. You have Jim McEachern. You have Keith Hansen, radio host, and McEachern is obviously already involved in the party. Big picture though, Scott, excuse me there. Chris Ager did a lot with a little and had a lot of success in the last cycle. There are big shoes to fill for whoever steps in.
No doubt. Chris Ager and then, his advisor, Chris Maidment, the two of them, along with Jim McEachern, were really the three musketeers. And we talk a lot about the structure of the New Hampshire Republican Party. It's really a grassroots, almost volunteer-based effort versus what the New Hampshire Democratic Party looks like, which is a more professionalized, payroll-driven operation. So there's a lot of work to do. I think the priorities for the next party chair are obviously fundraising, support anything and everything that Kelly Ayotte needs because you're working for a Republican governor in many ways, and then honestly to try to make sure that you stay focused on the special elections that are coming up that you have to succeed in because you don't want to give up any ground. So what I'm hearing is that Jim McEachern is popular. He's well known. He has a lot of experience in dairy politics, and and now as the vice chair. So there's a seamlessness of transition as the front runner there. So there are some expectations that McEachern's going to be all right. I'm not sure that Mike Biondo was ever being considered a serious candidate. And a lot of that is, I think, because of an existing relationship that Governor-elect Ayotte has with Jim McEachern. And I know there has not been an endorsement yet, but there's a relationship, and I think that matters. So there's a lot of work to do, and to me, Adam, the question really is, will the Republican Party take a look at an overhaul, much like what the Democratic Party did before? And the Republicans did awfully well in the last election cycle, but this structural ability for Dems to be able to raise funds and then support candidates up and down the ticket, it's still a built-in advantage for the New Hampshire Democratic Party. And so we've got to see if the Republicans are going to come in, and will Jim McEachern be an agent of change, or will it be more of a maintenance of effort? And if so, how do you maintain success?
Hey, you got to wonder if that success in some ways in 2024 kind of comes back to bite them when the big money folks say, hey, you did it a lot on a little this last time, can you do it again for us? But
absolutely.
We'll see how that plays out. Before we wrap up here, Scott, let's talk a little bit about Senator Jeanne Shaheen ascending as the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. To put it mildly, this is a big deal.
It really is. If there was a Senate vice president, I think this is that job. This role is so critically important to all of our international relationships. There is a lot that's going to flow through Senator Shaheen's office on this one issue that makes her literally one of the most important and powerful political figures structurally that will be inside the Beltway. And I think for Republicans and Democrats alike, Senator Shaheen has a reputation of being very bipartisan on important critical issues, and I think that leadership style will benefit.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine that a ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee wouldn't run for re-election, but we don't know. She hasn't made her decision yet. So
odds are I'm saying
Scott,
she's doing it.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. All right, that wraps up this edition of Close Up New Hampshire. Thanks for watching. Have a great Sunday.